Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. I'm streaming live here from the Asper Jewish Community Campus in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Local time, 12:06 p.m. And I'm here on the table with Paul, Julie, Leon, and let's see who else is coming in person. Hi, Bill.
Have a great day.
I'm hearing about all these storms. That's terrible. So Maggie, where exactly are you and Glenn? Which location exactly? Because here, Winnipeg, been raining. You can't really see because I have the background blurred, but still raining. All of a sudden, it was sunny this morning, and now it's pouring. I almost didn't make it to Torleheim because of all the, I don't know, this is Winnipeg, right? 2 drops and everything is flooded.
Yeah. Sure enough.
I think it's because it's so flat, the water doesn't have anywhere to go, to drain. So here outside the Jewish Community Campus, there is one street that is Doncaster Street. It gets flooded right away.
Yeah.
And you would expect by now, somebody at the city will figure it out, right?
Not so much.
But still, 2 drops and it's flooded right away. Let's see. Maggie is in southeast Texas, Beaumont. 20 miles from Louisiana border. Wow.
Yeah.
Glenn is in Cleburne, Texas.
Oh yeah.
Southwest of Fort Worth.
I've heard of that. The Goldites. There's a team. They have a baseball team that plays in the same league as the Winnipeg Goldites.
One at the
Cleburne.
Texas?
Yeah, Cleburne.
Oh, Cleburne. Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember, Cleburne. Have you ever seen it, Glenn? The Winnipeg team playing there. It's called the Winnipeg Goldites. It's a minor league baseball. It's minor league. Is it minor league? It's minor league.
Yeah.
And there, once in a while, they play there. Last year, I went to see the Goldites at Fargo.
Yes. The Wind Farm. Yeah.
So this is fun. Maybe I should check other places. Maybe I can drive right away.
Yes.
I know.
They were just in Fargo. They're just concluding in Fargo today.
The only one that is driving distance is Fargo.
Reasonable driving distance.
Yes. All the others are
Reasonable.
all over the map.
Yeah, Iowa and
To the
South
point that they
Dakota.
say, why are they in the same league, right?
Yeah. Well,
But-
it's all drivable. Some
Yeah.
are closer than others.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. Texas is such a long distance from Winnipeg, I guess, because the minor leagues, it's very rare to take a plane to
No,
go.
they don't. I think it's exclusively bus. I think
Yeah, but how do you go from here all the way to Texas? It's crazy.
it's a long bus ride. That's what usually happens. Is that the Goldites for last many number of years they've started the season there. They've gone for like 10 games,
And then they
come
start
back-
moving.
and then they come back here, and then they're done with Texas for
Yeah.
the season. So that's been
Glenn
their
said,
routine for many
"Oh,
years.
listen." Glenn said the stadium is just a couple of miles from me, but no, I haven't been there. Wow. Go see the Goldites. Go
Get on
cheer
it.
for Winnipeg.
Get on it, Glenn.
And when you go there, all you have to do is you just keep yelling, "Go fish." Go fish. That's the Goldites. I don't know if everybody knows what the Goldites. The Goldites is it known as a fish in the United States?
I don't know if they know. We know it, but whether they know or not.
It's a
on-
fish here,
It's
the
on their
Goldeye.
logo. Like
Goldeye. We you can find it in the supermarket. They have it smoked Goldeye. It's delicious. It's a nice appetizer for me.
yes.
Very nice. And Maggie said that they thought they may need an ark. Yeah. Well, you better start building one. I guess in these days it's more difficult, right, to build an ark. You need a city permit.
Yeah.
You need that, you need to do like an ecological impact study, and you have to justify why you need so much wood. You have to bribe a couple of offices there. It's difficult. Yeah, Brenda said Golda is non-existent here. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is, but with a different name. That's what I discovered. That all over North America and even some parts of South America, there is the same fish.
Oh, really?
But we call it differently.
Okay.
And it's either the same or virtually the same.
Well, like there's pickerel, for instance, but in the States they call it walleye.
Yeah, pickerel here, walleye in the States, but it's
Yeah.
the same fish. So
Exactly
sure,
the same thing.
I'm sure that goldeye might be.
To them it might just be smoked fish. So
Yeah. Oh, Shelley Chachino said goldeye as smoked fish used to be very popular, not so much anymore. Oh, I like it.
I would dispute that.
I like it. I like it. Okay, you came here to study, not to talk about fish. So I'm gonna open my text here, and we are going to study today Parshat Bechukotai. Okay, what is interesting about the Parshat Bechukotai is that the Torah portion opens with two words that, without further explanation, it will be confusing for us. Okay, so let me open it and then I will explain. Okay, it says, "Im bechukotai teilechu, ve'et mitzvotai tishmoru, ve'asitem otam." Okay, im bechukotai. So chukot or chukim, it's one word that sometimes we use to refer to the commandments. Okay? Chok is the singular, chok, chukim, plural. And then it says, so im, which means if. And then im bechukotai, if in my commandments. Teilechu, you walk. It's an idiom, right? You follow. If you follow. And then it said, and et mitzvotai, but also my commandments, tishmoru, if you guard them, okay? Another word for observe them. Ve'asitem otam, and you perform them. So lots of words that seems to be the same. But if the Torah is presenting chukotai and mitzvotai, it has to be two different things. Okay? But the problem is the Torah does not explain what's the difference between a chok and a mitzvah. So have that in mind, that we have here two different words that seems to be the same thing, and sometimes it could be interchangeable to refer to commandments. Okay, but then eventually the rabbis, we will see, not right at the beginning, but we will see that the rabbis will explain what's the difference between one and the other, and why the need of two different ways of presenting them. The first one, teilechu, and the other one, tishmoru. Okay, so let's go to the first text here. And I will give you a little spoiler here for what's coming after. Usually a chok is a commandment that has no logic. Most difficult to fulfill, right? And the mitzvah, or sometimes it's called mishpat, we use it, mishpat, are the logical ones. The ones that, had God never revealed those on Sinai, humanity will figure it out. Because there are many things that the Torah presents that we have many other cultures that they've never been exposed to any Judeo-Christian teaching, and they have similar, like, social laws to regular society, right? Why? Because they're logical. Anybody who thinks a little bit about it will figure that out. The Ten Commandments says, you shall not murder. Really? Really? God has to tell us that?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a mishpat. That is a kind of commandment that doesn't need any explanation. But there are some others that they have to be explained, or maybe they don't have any explanation. If I say to you, you should not wear wool and linen, the same garment, what's the logic behind it? Good luck with that. Okay? Good luck with that. Or like the ones of you don't supposed to shave your head.
That's it for today.
That's it. Okay, anyway. But the word hok, let's start with hukim, because after all the parsha is called Bechukotai. The word hok, other than to be a statue or a decree, something that comes from God but we don't understand why, it has, as a Hebrew word, has another meaning, which is engraved. Okay? Engraved. So that piqued the rabbis' I want to say imagination, but the rabbis creativity to play with the concept of a commandment that is also engraved. Okay? Because we know that even in ancient times there were different ways to write something. You can engrave it or you can write it. Right? Either you engrave it on stone, or you carve it, or you use ink. Back in the day, it used to be on parchment, right? But they were the two methods to do it. So here in this text that I'm going to read for you, the rabbis are comparing the two words that I gave you at the beginning, okay, the hukim and the mitzvot, or the mishpatim, that is another way, as engraving and writing. Listen to this, it's a beautiful text. The word hok, says this rabbi, statue or decree, which gives the parsha Bechukotai its name, literally means engraved. The Torah comes in two forms, and we talk about this many times in this class, that we have two Torahs, which are the two Torahs. Remember the two Torahs? Which are? Written and oral. Very good. Those are the ones that we always have. I mean, we always say Torah, but whenever you say Torah, it's implied that it's the two together. Okay? So, the Torah comes in two forms, written but here it says written and engraved. Not written and oral. Written and engraved, says this rabbi. On the last day of his life, Moses inscribed the Torah on parchment scrolls. That's the scripture. Moses was writing the Torah on scrolls. Eventually, before he died, he put it inside the Ark of the Covenant, together with a sample of manna, together with the tablets of the law, first version that it was broken and second version, right? And also the Aaron's staff. Remember the one that blossoms almonds when Korach came to challenge him. So that thing, according to the Torah, was also put inside the Ark of the Covenant. So if we ever find the Ark of the Covenant, that's what you're supposed to find inside it. Okay? Indiana Jones couldn't see it because, they had to turn away. Otherwise, they would be melted. So, on that the last day of his life, Moses inscribed the Torah on parchment scrolls. But this written Torah was preceded by an engraved Torah. So the divine law was first given to us encapsulated in the 10 Commandments, which were etched by the hand of God in 2 tablets of stone. So according to these rabbis, it's not a coincidence that first revelation was engraved. A second stage was for Moses to write it. Interesting. We sometimes forget about the 2 different techniques involved in 2 different moments of revelation. When something is written, the substance of the letters that express it, the ink, remains a separate entity from the substance upon which they have been set, the parchment. That's why, for example, when we have a scroll of Torah, there is a point where the letter is gone. It's so faded that you can't read it anymore and it has to be repaired. What is the repair? Just a scribe comes and write it again. Okay? But the problem with the ink is that eventually fades away. On the other hand, letters engraved in stone are forged in it. The words are stone, and the stone is word. By the same token, there is an aspect of Torah that is inked on our souls. We understand it, our emotions are aroused by it, becomes our lifestyle or even our personality. But it remains something additional to ourselves. It's not who we are, it's what we do. And eventually that also, like everything that you write down, could fade away. Right? The way we practice, the way we understand. It's fluid, like the ink, comes and goes. But there is a dimension of Torah that is chok, engraved in our being. There is a dimension of Torah which expresses a bond with God that is of the very essence of the Jewish soul. So what it says here is, this is, I believe, by the way, this was written by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, who was the first Rebbe of Chabad. And this is mid-1800. No, when was Chabad? 1700. Ooh. 1700, Chabad. What he's talking about here is the belief that our soul knows everything. So before the soul is put in the body, the soul knows everything, all the Torah. Every single teaching that you think you are learning from the Torah, you're not learning anything. You already know it. You're just remembering it. The Midrash, the rabbinic story goes as saying that there is a journey of the soul all the way from God to the body. And I know every time we think of a journey, we think of distance, right? There is a spiritual journey. We can't understand how that works. One way to understand it, and I don't want to go too deep into that, is God is infinite. The world where we live is finite. How can something that is infinite and something that is finite coexist? It's impossible. It's impossible. Finite and infinite cannot coexist. So the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, understands that there are like layers in between. It's almost like it's difficult for us to understand, but there is an in between finite and infinite. There are layers in between that they are more finite than infinite and more infinite than finite. We can't get it, but then there is, they say that exists, so the soul goes through that journey until something that is infinite, like the soul, can become part of a body that is finite. Okay? So the Midrash says that during that journey, there is an angel teaching that soul the entire Torah. When the soul comes to this world through birth, it says the angel touches the baby's lip. At that time, the baby forgets all the Torah. And the rabbi said, that's why we have this thing here in the lip. That's a reminder of the finger of the angel. So when we look ourselves in the mirror, we remember that principle. It's interesting. So I said, but you know, when you forget something, it's not that it's gone. You know when you see somebody and you can't remember the name? But is the name gone? No, you just can't access it. And then you're driving back home, right? Robert, his name was Robert. And then you feel that excitement when you remember something.
Yeah.
Same thing when you lost, I don't know, Leon, if ever happened to you, that you lose something,
Oh, many times.
and then after a few years you find it.
It's not usually years, thankfully. It's usually like maybe days, hours or days. But
Well,
not-
but there is
thankfully not years.
there is a joy associated with that.
Yes.
When you found something that you thought it was lost.
Yes.
So that's what happened every time we study Torah. We have this excitement when we learn something new. And it's not because you learn something new, it's because you are finding something that it was lost. Okay? So that's why is that? Because that is the part that is engraved. So that is engraved in our souls. It's not written. Because that is not what we do, that's who we are, even if we don't realize that. All that is already there. Okay, so that's what it is. So let me read a few of the messages here. People are still talking about fish. Oh, Glenn Anderson said, interesting. I used the stone edition of the Chumash. Yeah, I think in that context, Glenn, stone refers to the family who put the money. Is the last name of the family who put the money for that Chumash to be produced. But still, very interesting. Coincidence,
Yeah.
right? That's how this. And Shelley says, opposite attract, but they exist in a liminal state. What is a liminal?
Right at the edges of nothing.
Oh, Irving Stone.
Linear? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Anyway,
Liminal.
the two things coexist. No. The two. We need both. We need both.
No, I'm just asking what the word meant.
Oh, okay. Because that's why we have the. Yeah.
Liminal.
Yeah. Like I said, write it on the tablets of your heart. Yeah. But this is talking about what our soul already have and we are not aware of it. And that's why the rabbi said that the day we die, that exact moment, the soul is free from the limitations of the body, so the soul is immediately aware of everything that it was taught, plus everything that the body did. So the rabbis talk about the shock that our soul gets after we die. When you because it's like when you go to when you do a test and you feel it was so good, and then it comes back and you thought you were going to get a 10 and you got a 7, right? Because at that moment when you get the paper back, somebody put in red everything that you did wrong, and then you realize, oh, darn it, I knew that. I knew it. So that is the shock. That is the shock. It's like when all of a sudden, have you ever discovered that you were wrong about something?
Never.
Oh, never. That you were wrong. After you've been doing something wrong for
every
so
day.
long, somebody showed to you why you were wrong.
True.
It's hard to swallow.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes.
Well, can you imagine if that happened with your entire life in an instant?
Yeah.
That you realize, because for the body to realize everything that you did wrong, because that's also a limitation of the body, you have to go through your deeds one by one. A soul doesn't have time of space, so you realize everything at once. Big shock. Okay, so let's continue. I will give you like a story to supplement this context. It says, a rabbi one offered the following analogy. Every Jew is a letter in the Torah. Have you ever heard that one? And that's why we have also the mitzvah. When he said every Jew has the mitzvah to write a Torah during their lives, but what it means is one letter. And you can do that by buying a letter of a Torah that is being produced. And in my case, when Shelley Chochinov, she's there, I wish she were here with us, she donated a Torah to the synagogue dedicated to her late husband. And she did something very interesting. She flew the sofer, the scribe, to Winnipeg. Okay? So the sofer, the scribe, he didn't finish it. He finished it in Winnipeg, in front of an audience. So people who were invited to that event will come one by one to the table. The chauffeur will write the letter, but you will put the hand on top of his hand, and you will be writing the letter. It was an amazing thing, very very nice thing. So a rabbi once offered the following analogy: every Jew is a letter in the Torah, but the letter may at times grow somewhat faded. Rabbi said that. It is our sacred duty to mend these faded letters and make God's Torah whole again. That's also a mitzvah. If you know that a Torah is not kosher anymore, you have to fix it. If it's not fixable anymore, then it has to be buried in a Jewish cemetery, okay? Or unless there is like a Holocaust scroll that we don't bury it just to have as a testimonial, but we keep it in the ark with all the respect. But if it's a Torah that we use in the synagogue, and we have to do it in the past already, I'm sure it's that.
Yes.
Once in a while we get scribes that they come to Winnipeg and they fix all these letters because it's a duty to do that. So, but then, if we compare every Jew with the letter in the Torah, right? Then when you say that we have the sacred duty to fix every letter that is faded, then here we have a larger principle. It's a bigger principle here. So Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Lubavitch heard this teaching and objected. Said, no, the identity of a Jew cannot be compared to erasable ink on parchment. Every Jew is indeed a letter in God's Torah, but a letter carved in stone. At times, the dust and dirt may accumulate and distort or even completely conceal the letter's true form. But underneath it all, the letter remains whole. We need only sweep away the surface grime, and the letter, in all its perfection and beauty, will come to light. Very interesting, the two opinions here. One, they compare it to something that it could be erased, and the other one that is something that is engraved, right? So the problem that Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Lubavitch found for the first statement is that if a letter is completely erased, and if nobody to fix it, right, you're a lost soul, right? And I said it's not true, because you still have that spark inside that even if you don't have anybody, you may find your way back. Yes, you.
Isaiah says something about being carved each of us is carved, engraved in God's form.
Yeah, but I love the concept of engraving. There are many different metaphors of being engraved, because that's the thing, when you're engraved, it cannot be erased. It could be covered, and we see this in archaeological findings, right? You know what they found, these old tablets, that it seems that it's nothing, but then you will see the archaeologists goes like this, and then you see that it's writing underneath. So what these two statements anyway have in common is that they seem to imply that either faded or covered, we still have the duty to either fix it or remove the dust. It's the duty or the obligation to bring people back, to find ways to do it. If it's a Torah, you fix it. If you believe, the better metaphor is it's like an engraved tablet. You have to dust it.
Well, and that's like with anything. I feel like if you notice that something isn't as it should be, then deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, then you point out to someone and say, hey, you know what? This is my situation. I don't know how to deal with this. Can you please help? You know something's wrong, but you don't know how to fix it. So
Well,
either do it or seek assistance.
but sometimes it won't come from you, right?
True.
Sometimes it's a responsibility of the congregation to realize that and to adjust and to adapt. And I believe that that is our motivation at Shaare Zedek when we modify services, right? Because I realized that the 3.5 hour services that we used to have in the past, instead of fixing the letter or dusting the tablet, used to do all the opposite. Used to add more dust on top, right? It didn't, and I understand it because the services as a communal experience supposed to be a springboard or to bring you closer to God. But it was the opposite. You know how many people say that they stopped coming to synagogue because they were dragged by their parents to this service that meant nothing to them, and I didn't want to come anymore because it means nothing. Sermons were uninspiring, completely removed from reality. The melodies presented, they said, this is not the music that resonates with me. I never went to Hebrew day school, and the translations that you have here are, very old. I don't understand thous and these. So that, for us at least, that was a huge motivation to review everything we do, to bring people closer, not to scare them out. Time will tell if we are into something here or not. But hey, we try. We try. So, going back to and I forget a little bit about the parsha, and I want to go back to the concept of the two words we use in these days to categorize the commandments. So we have the hukim, like this week's parsha. That hukim are those laws in the Torah we seemingly do not know the reason for, such as the prohibition to wear shatnez, forbidden mixtures, right? Wool and linen, or, for example, the prohibition to eat pork. It makes me crazy when people try to find a rational explanation for that. It's not rational. Well, but back in the day, pork had, so many illnesses and things. So did the chicken. You know how many parasites they carry? And cows also can get sick and things. So I don't buy it. I don't buy that the prohibition of eating pork is a rational one. I don't think there is, at least to me, that's not a rational thing. The laws of kashrut are not rational, are hukim, are decrees. It's something that God said, you have to do it because I say so. And that's why it's so difficult for many people to follow it. Because what I realized, and it's not just in this generation, that is one day a Jew decides from now on, I'm going to fulfill only the logical commandments, and I'm going to reject, out of the bat, the illogical commandments. And that's the way most people live their Judaism. Maybe they will leave one or two, like sometimes putting the mezuzah in the door. It's illogical, because you can find other ways to remind you about the law of God, right? But you put it because it looks nice and it became part of identity, right? But there are many things that, Josue Selva is here. Let's say, that's to feel religious, not feel any meaning or touch. Torah is a guide for life, how to live it. Yeah. So let's continue. So,
You have something to say, but just
yeah, say it.
just
Well,
go.
not at the moment.
No, but before we continue, because this move fast.
Okay. The term remember, as we pointed out, it's like one of the limbs is called one of your members, and it means putting yourself together again.
Oh, remember putting your members, your limbs back together
That's
again.
right.
Yes.
Restoring your wholeness and unity. Yeah.
I like that. Something that you make sense again.
Yeah.
But that's what they say. I study this, many times, and I have to admit, I never had the discipline to do it, which is, when people teach ways to store information in the brain,
Yes.
right? So what they mention is exactly that. They say the way we put things in our brain is all over the place, and then you have to remember it, right?
To me,
But-
that describes what you had earlier about remembering things. It was there.
But you
not
don't know where it
connected,
is.
yes.
But there are people that they actually teach techniques where you don't have to remember it, you organize it as you put it inside your brain. And it's always put in a way that is already together, which is interesting because then maybe we have to find a different way. They're not remembering it, they're just presenting it because they're always aware of what is on their heads. You probably heard about the concept of the mind palace. Have you ever heard the mind palace? That you put things in different rooms of your home. And,
The medieval.
but have you ever learned it? I mean, I learned the concept. I took.
No,
I,
me
I,
too,
I
that's
went.
all.
I went to a conference. And there was a guy who was teaching how to do it, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Or how to remember things by creating words that rhyme with numbers, and then, like for example, they would say that you're a speaker, you're a lecturer, and then you have 10 points to present. So point number one is you want to start with your trip to the Caribbean. That's your introduction. So what is point number one? Give me a word that rhymes with one. Could be Juan. Could be Juan. My friend Juan. I know somebody that with that name, right? So you imagine, right, playing like a volleyball game on the beach in the Caribbean with Juan. So then you already have that image, right?
Yeah.
And then you remember that. And then two. What is then? It could be tuk, right? That you have to create, and they say the craziest, the image that you create with that,
Have to remember
the easier to remember. So that is a way for speakers not to rely on notes, for example. Too much discipline to learn it. But once you learn it, yeah, I guess. Yeah. So, Mishpatim now. So we know now what is the Hukim, illogical. Mishpatims are laws for which we know the reason, right? They make sense. They make sense. All the ones that you say, oh, it makes sense, that's a mishpat. Examples are the prohibition of stealing and the prohibition of taking bribes. Do I have to explain that to you? I hope no. I hope not. If I have to explain this to people, I would say we have a bigger problem, right? If I had to explain why taking bribes is bad. These are laws that any normal and decent society will enact, and in fact, does enact. Now, I want to bring out something that the Rambam, the Maimonides, said. Maimonides, remember, he was a rationalist. He was a man who was not afraid of thinking outside the box. He did something that it was a taboo at the time, that it was, okay, let's study philosophy, Greek philosophy first, and then let's go back with all that mental structure that you learn when you study philosophy and reread the Bible through those lenses. That was fantastic because one of the things that we learn through Greek philosophy is you actually ask yourself, why? Why? Right? You want to know why. Why am I here? Is there a purpose for me? But before that, this is a given for us, even if we are not philosophers, right? It is part of education. They asking why. Back in the day, it wasn't so much like that. It was more of the how. You have the Word of God, and your main concern is the how. how do I fulfill the word of God? Not the why do I have to fulfill the word of God. That was never a question. And if it was banned. You're not allowed to ask the why. What do you mean why? Because God said so. Why did God say so? Get out of here. We don't work like that. So Maimonides was not afraid to say, why did God say so? Even though sometimes he didn't have the answer. So he said, Maimonides, the 8 fundamental principles of Judaism is that the Torah is from heaven. This means that we must believe that this entire Torah, which was given to us from Moses, our teacher, may he rest in peace, is entirely from the mouth of the Almighty. Okay? All this is also true for the explanation of the Torah, what he called the oral law, coming from God, which was also received from the mouth of the Almighty. The manner in which we today perform the mitzvot, of, for example, the way we build the sukkah, the way we shake the lulav on Sukkot, the shofar, the tzitzit of the talit, the feeling that we put on all the items, is precisely the way that God, blessed be He, told Moses, who then informed us. And the one whom God appointed as an agent is surely to be relied upon. Okay? So he starts from the point that he said, hey, everything that we have, everything that we do, it is from God. Okay? That is, everything comes from God. But once you understand that, then the second stage is when, now that we believe that it's from God, now let's explore the why. Because the problem is, if you don't do that process first, then the whys, it may even take you away from God. So the rabbis used to spend lots of time first understanding that everything came from God, and then you're ready to go into the whys, why you do this. And in many cases, I read many writings of Maimonides, and I love it, for example, when he's talking about the shofar, that he said the shofar is a hawk. Why we blow the shofar? It's a hawk. It's a decree from God. And then Maimonides starts his writings about the shofar, and he says, even though the shofar is a hawk, I will tell you why. I said, dude, you just contradicted yourself. If it's a hawk, you can't tell me why. But what he meant is that it's a why that worked for him. That was his opinion. And it maybe for you, it may mean something else. And I've seen this every time that I talk with people that they keep kosher. They keep kosher for different reasons. Right? Because it's a hawk. So when something's a hawk, it can't be one reason. Because it's illogical. But then somehow you find a way to make it sense to you. So it's an interesting thing. Now, the concept of oral law, it's something that also I believe has to be explained. How can we justify that there is an oral law? How do we know that the rabbis didn't make it up? Well, the rabbis present as a proof a verse on Leviticus, on this week's parsha, Leviticus 26:46, that it says, these are the statutes, the ordinances, and the Torahs, plural, in Hebrew is Torot, okay, and the Torahs that the Lord gave between himself and the children of Israel on Mount Sinai through Moses. Then Rashi explains, and the Torahs. Why the plural form Torahs? This denotes two Torahs, one written Torah and one oral Torah. It teaches us all was given to Moses on Mount Sinai. So it's interesting because if you ask the people who rejected the oral law, sometimes they talk about the Karaites, Jews, they understand this verse in a different way, and they take the word Torahs as instructions, not as like the Torah that we read in the synagogue, but they translate it as instructions. Okay? So then they don't understand that there is an oral law. It's the verse it's talking about all the instructions that God gave, that they are included in the written Torah. But the way the rabbis read it is when it says Torahs, it's talking about written Torah and oral Torah. Okay? So yeah, what I wanted to say is we have to start building in our heads a chart of how to categorize the commandments. You have decrees, right? And the other commandments that they are logical, the mishpatims. But at the same time, you have written Torah laws and oral Torah laws. When you're talking about written Torah versus oral Torah, the way we name them is when a law is from the written Torah, we say deoraita.
Say that again, sorry, the what?
Deoraita is Aramaic. The oraita,
Alright.
from the Torah. Deoraita. De is from. Oraita is Aramaic for Torah. When something is oral, we say de Rabbanan, from the rabbis. De Rabbanan. Okay? So whenever, you see when I said those two columns, you have the Hukim and the Mishpatim, but you also have the Oraita and the Rabbanan. Leon,
Rabbi.
give me an example of a law that is the Rabbanan. I like to put him on the spot. That came to us from the rabbis.
Like keeping kosher?
No, that's the Oraita.
A law from the rabbis.
Okay, think about December.
Not lighting Hanukkah candles?
Hanukkah candles, very good. What in the Torah says that we have to light Hanukkah candles? So it's the Rabbanan. It's the Rabbanan, right? We have one third category that I mentioned quickly that is called minhag, tradition. That sometimes tradition becomes a law, like the kippah. Okay?
I was thinking of standing when the Torah is vertical and exposed.
Yeah.
When the scroll is vertical and exposed, you stand.
Yes, that's all the Rabbanan. But that is the Rabbanan, that is mentioned. But it's, most of those things start as a tradition, then it gets codified or legislated, but there are things that happen later in time. And okay, and there is one more thing, I will mention it here quickly. So, Purim, says Josue Selva. Yeah, Purim is also the Rabbanan. Hold on, I want to show here. There is one more thing that you have to know, and there is one more category that is called takana. Takana. You may have heard that on Shavuot we stay all night studying Torah, and that's called the tikkun.
Yes.
Tikkun, takana, same word, same root. Come from the verb letaken. You know what is letaken? To correct. To correct something that is wrong, or a mistake. Letaken. So, why we call the tikkun correction is because we are correcting the mistake that the generation of Moses made when they didn't show up for revelation. Because the verse said that Moses has to get them out of the camp. So the rabbis explained that they didn't want to go. Moses have to wake them up and bring them. So because they were asleep and they were about to miss the revelation, we stay up all night studying Torah. So that's what is tikkun. We are correcting their mistake. The legal category of takana is something that is it's a mistake the way we do it, and it has to be adjusted. For example, there is a takana that was enacted around 1,000 years ago that a man cannot marry multiple women, and a man cannot divorce a woman without her consent. That was a takana. It has to be pretty much approved by all the rabbis of the generation. Otherwise, it's not a takana. But why was that takana necessary? Because the civil law changed, right? Because it was not Muslims in charge anymore. Now it was a Christian government. And they were not allowed to marry multiple wives. Okay? Okay. One wife, I got tired of my wife after a few years. I divorce her. Goodbye. And I take another one. Can you feel the mistake there? How wrong that is? So they have to enact a takana that you cannot do it without her consent. When men were allowed to marry multiple women, we didn't have that. So basically in those days, people could divorce any wife at any time, but it virtually never happened because you had other wives, right? If you don't care about ones, you just don't pay attention to her. You don't have to divorce her. So that's the thing. So that's why when by the local government law, they were not allowed to marry multiple wives. The rabbi had to enact the takana confirming that, and also saying now, from now on, you cannot divorce your wife without her consent. That's a typical case of a takana.
Almost like probably the get was probably derived from that. It was maybe a spin-off.
The get? Well, the problem is because it was not dealt back in the day,
Right.
now we cannot enact takanot anymore because there is no consensus. We don't have any more, big name rabbis that if this rabbi said it, everybody accepts it. It doesn't exist anymore. If we could go back to those days, then yes, a big name rabbi will say, for example, from now on, also a woman can divorce her husband, right?
I thought that was permitted much earlier.
No, a woman cannot start the divorce procedures. It has to come from the husband. Still. And it cannot be changed because they cannot enact the takana. There are many rabbis, if you ask them individually, they would like to do it, but it cannot be done. Same thing with the husband who refused to give a get, right? It could be a takana that says if the husband doesn't want to give the get, a Beit Din will do it on his behalf. Could be a takana. But it didn't happen then, and in this day cannot happen anymore because there will be always one rabbi who will say no. I'm not saying that it may not happen in the future. There will be a big consensus, but it's not. It's very difficult in this day and age to enact the takana. There is within the conservative movement, because the way the committee law works, it could be a way for within the conservative movement to enact the takana, and in fact there are some takanot, and that is when the rabbis get together and vote and it's unanimous. When it's a unanimous decision, it becomes a takana, and it's enforceable. It means that everybody is obligated to do it that way within the conservative movement, right? For example, they tried to do a takana regarding same-sex marriages, but it didn't pass as a takana because it was voted, majority won, right? But there are dissenting opinions, so it was not accepted as a takana. So now basically what it means is a conservative rabbi could refuse to perform same-sex marriage because it's not a takana.
You could also perform one if you chose.
Yes, correct, because it was approved. Same happened with the streaming of services. It was not a takana. So synagogues may refuse to stream services on Shabbat, but now they have an open door if they wanted to. So it's done this way. Oh, I won't even be able to talk about this. I wanted to give you examples and other ways, because not everything that the rabbis decided is come through oral law. There is another concept that you will like it. You will like this, Paul. It's called sevara. You know what sevara is? Brain power. Right? Many of the things that we have in the Talmud, we said, oh, this is oral law. But they're not oral law. The rabbis came out to that using sevara, connecting the dots, right? Being smart. And then being smart, they said, this is the way we do it. Oh, you mean that God didn't say that? No, we figured it out. And whenever that is done, it's called a decision based on sevara. And that is the way that we do many things, many decisions in these days, using our brains. Why we do that? Because it's logical. There are other things that, again, is through oral law. Why do we do the kosher slaughtering by cutting the side of the neck? That is oral law. It's not mentioned in the Torah, but we know it is a way through oral law. But there are many other things that is using the brain. How do you know that praying in the synagogue equals presenting a sacrifice that we don't have a temple? That is not part of the oral law. When the rabbis came, sevara. They used their brains to figure that out. So, yeah. Well, thank you everyone for connecting. Thank you all of you for coming out. You have a question?
That the term command in biblical Hebrew wasn't going to do when Israel became a state again, because it isn't demanding enough to be used for military and police purposes. And I read that they had to invent a new word meaning command, and that's strictly, it was obey.
Obey, tziva.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was in civil ceremony, I think. I don't know if that's
So the thing. Okay, thank you everyone. The class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time, by the way. So if you want to play it again, you know what to do. Otherwise, I will see you next time. And I think we have like 2 or 3 more classes, and then we go into the hiatus.
According to the announcements I read yesterday, next week is your last one. According to what I read yesterday.
Did I bring my phone?
that's not
Correct,
a
for the
law.
summer. Pardon me?
That's not a law, it can be changed.
Well, that's up to the rabbi. It's his
It's
baby.
up to his brain.
It's his baby. So, but that's the announcements I read yesterday. The next week is the last.
Yeah, I want to say everything before I stop the class. It's I want to be sure when is the last class. We have 2 more classes.
So what,
2 more classes, 6 and 13.
Oh, okay. Because then I'll change the announcements. Because that's not what it said.
I believe for some reason I couldn't do it on the 20th. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have unveilings already at noon.
Okay.
That's why. So 2 more classes, guys. So please do an effort. And if you can come in person, even better. Food is not bad, right? Food is okay.
I guess I feel very inhibited by the fact that you have a presentation to make, and if I raise questions, it might screw it up. I don't want to do
Now,
that.
I will try to. The thing is, people cannot hear you.
Yeah.
So I find a better way to find microphones so people can hear what other people say. For next session, I'm already planning to do that. Maybe this is not the best place with all the noise.
Yeah. There's also something else I thought about.
Okay, bye everyone.